Welcome everybody to the Rotary Club of Livermore. Glad you could all join us today. To get our meeting started, Past President Carolyn, would you be willing to lead us in the pledge?
I would be happy and honored to do so. So please join me. Keep yourselves on mute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. Thanks, Carolyn. So songsters, I saw Mr. and Mrs. Berry on the road there today. So phoning it in?
We had to do it via the web. And so what we're going to do today, because we're talking baseball, so we decided, and also with all due respect to Carolyn, the song is an old song that we're going to do. I think it was written in 1910. And if you can tell me who wrote it, let's see. What's his name? John Norworth. Anybody ever hear of John Norworth? Well, you can take me out to the ball game and you'll hear John Norworth. And you'll see me on kazoo, mouth harp, Stu on organ, and Tim on banjo with a really cool hat on, and also on guitar and vocals. Here we go.
Well, not yet. Alan, I need to be able to share my screen.
Okay, maybe not yet.
I think I'll be able to do it now. There.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Katie Casey was baseball man, had the fever and had it bad, just to root for the hometown crew. Every South Katie blew. On a Saturday her young beau called to see if she'd like to go to see a show, but Miss Katie said no. I tell you what you can do. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Katie Casey saw all the games, knew the players by knew their first names, told the umpire he was wrong all along, good and strong. When the score was just 2-2, Katie Casey knew what to do, just to cheer up the boys she knew. She made the gang sing this song. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
That is awesome, you guys. That is so fun. Kazoos and mouth harps. Wow, haven't heard those in a while. You guys are breaking out all the stops. That's awesome. Thanks, you guys. So, thought for the day, Scott. What do you have for us?
Good day, everybody. Thanks for letting me share with you guys. So today's thought for today has to do with present moment awareness. One of the more profound books I've read recently that had a major impact on my day-to-day life is The Power of Now by RcoL. In his book, the concept of present moment awareness is discussed with specific references to our dwelling on past regrets and worrying about future possibilities. Additionally, he speaks of time as an illusion and encourages us to spend more time focused on the present moment as opposed to the past or future. Time is a concept created by the human mind to help us function in the practical world. Clock time, a term used throughout the book, is useful for tasks like scheduling appointments and running a meeting, as well as to learn from the past and set goals for the future. However, as many of our contemporary colleagues would argue, time is really an illusion. Sometimes we're trapped in the illusion of time and we spend a bulk of our energy reminiscing on the past or hoping for a better future. In the process, we are absent in the present moment, the only real moment that we ever really have. I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes, which I have framed in my townhouse from RcoL. The power for creating a better future is contained in the present moment. You create a good future by creating a good present. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, the present is a gift, right? And take advantage of that. So want to thank our frontline, the people that make all this possible, our Zoom hosts, Jeff Youngma, Susan Mayall, taking care of the Spur report for us today. Thank you, Susan. Alan Frank, as always, thank you for all your preparation, getting the slides ready for us, keeping me organized, much appreciated. David, keeping an eye on the chat section there. And Kathy, gonna publish the Spur this week. So thank you all for all your help. And again, if there's club members that would like to, scratch that itch to do some club service, don't be bashful, step up, plenty of fun stuff to go around. So let us know. So visiting Rotarians. So I don't know if I saw any visiting Rotarians today. Anybody out there that I missed? Anybody going? Okay, no visiting Rotarians. Visit guests is Matt. Are you a guest? Are you a last time guest? I'm guessing.
I think I'm considered a last time guest now.
All right.
Filled out and everything, so I'm all excited.
All right, excellent. So next week, maybe we get to introduce you as a new member. So looking forward to that. So,
President Ken,
yeah.
I have a guest.
Oh,
My lovely wife Claudia of 45 years this week.
hey, Claudia.
Hi, Ken.
Are you guys
And
driving?
everybody.
We're taking advantage of McDonald's Wi-Fi in Fort Bragg.
Very nice. Very nice. Thanks for carving time out of your trip to spend with us today.
Sure.
Any other guests? Alan, before we jump into this one, can we take a moment? I would like to have Randy Schlentz share with us in kind of celebration of our 75th anniversary this year, just some reflections on his time in our club. So Randy, would you be willing to share with us?
Hello. Am I
There you
on?
are.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ken. My year, you asked me to talk about my year as president in Rotary, and my year was 1981-82, which I thought started out with a bang. The president executive training was held at the Claremont Hotel in Berkeley, and a really great keynote speaker was Bill Walsh. Pretty fantastic. Our club met at the Rancher on Pine Street, and we had maybe a little over 70 members. One of the more exciting things that occurred during my year as president was an agreement was reached between LARPD and the Rodeo Association to transform the single-use rodeo stadium into a multi-use stadium. And our club had made an earlier commitment to provide lighting for the stadium when and if an agreement was reached. So off of the rodeo season, the plan was for LARPD to lay turf on the field so that other sporting events could take place, and including night events. So our club, during my year, provided all of the construction details and budget for the lighting project, and also some of the plans for the fundraising to pay for the lighting took place during my year. But the events were the following year held at the stadium, and it was country western singers, and I think the only one that I can remember is Mel Tillis. Our club also sponsored the district golf tournament that year. The most funny memorable event took place about halfway through my term. At the rancher, you had to pass by the bar to get to the meeting room. And several members would stop and have a drink prior to the meeting. But we discovered that about 3 or 4 members after their pre-meeting drink would clock into the meeting and then return to the bar, spending the remainder of their time playing dice. So we surprised our dice players one meeting and opened a pair directly opposite the bar, extending their game. And the result was some pretty hefty fines and some pretty hilarious comments that were unmentionable at this time. Anyway, at the end of my Rotary year, the district conference, and at the district conference, our club was awarded Club of the Year, which was fantastic for District 5170. And I think as a direct result of that, I was asked to serve as area rep, which was now called Assistant District Governor, for the incoming District Governor, Rick King, which led to another very exciting Rotary year for me. So that's it.
All right. Randy, thank you for sharing. That's so cool, I think, right? I mean, the impact that this club has had on our community over the years, getting lights out there at the rodeo grounds, Club of the Year, right? What a legacy for this group. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So announcements, there's a membership seminar coming up. I think it's this weekend, right? Yeah, this Saturday. So if you're interested, I haven't heard this guy speak, but I heard good reviews. I heard he's actually entertaining and kind of fun to listen to. So if that would be of interest, there's still time to sign up for that. You can see the district website there at the bottom, if that's something that you're interested in. So, Marianne, would you like to let us know about upcoming grants cycle here?
Yes, thank you, President Ken. Just reminding everyone to reach out to teachers, community groups, and have them put in their applications for a grant by September 8th, Wednesday, of course. And we're looking forward to reading through some wonderful grants that we can make a difference in some teacher side and some community groups. So let's hear from you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Marianne. So before I hand off here to Christian, a couple other things I just wanted to mention. I've had people checking in asking about in person, and I think the stars have aligned, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and it looks like we are on track to go live September 1. And this will be our first experiment with hybrid meetings. So those of you that are super excited and want to get back to in-person meetings, we're going to meet at the Robert Livermore Community Center, the Cresta Blanca room, September 1. For those of you that aren't comfortable with that and would prefer to continue to attend via Zoom, that's going to be an option. Alan's been working really hard trying to make sure that the technology works. We've all got our fingers crossed, but this is a big experiment, everybody, right? We've never done this before. I think if we go into it and expect hiccups, we can be thrilled if it goes even close to smooth. Would be good, right? So we're going to try this out, and I'm sure that after a few stabs at it, we're going to get really good at it. So again, I'll bring everybody up to speed. Oh, last thing, right? Requirements from LARPD are that we will be required to be in compliance with county health orders, which currently, to the best of my knowledge, as of today, mean we will all have to be masked at the community center. So just a heads up, if that's not how you want to spend your lunch hour, Zoom. I mentioned lunch hour, right? Our plan is to not serve a meal for the first few meetings. We need to figure out how many people actually are going to be showing up. We're going to have to negotiate with caterers. Usually there's a minimum order. We need to get a sense of how many people are comfortable participating in person. And we're going to figure this out. So I appreciate everybody's patience and grace as we experiment with this new format for our club. So one other thing, horrible earthquake in Haiti. Somebody, or Brian Mayall, reached out and said, hey, should Shelter Box, it's kind of what Shelter Box does. Is that something that this group would like to get involved with, maybe raise some money? If that's something that you'd like to support, chat, put notes in the chat, let us know, and we can coordinate that. So Hank Shea, I see you've got a question.
Yes. When we do start eating, will we have to keep our masks on?
Hank, I'm going to say I do not know, right? I assume that if we
I'm sure they must make some provision for that, right?
Wow, this is such a dynamic situation, right? I really don't know. I think our reality is going to be, the requirement is if we're going to meet at this place in person, we've got to follow the rules. So the answer to that question is we'll follow the rules, right? It's what does it look like at that time, and we'll figure it out. So again, it's an experiment, right? We're trying something new. We'll see how it goes. If it's not working for everybody, we'll try something else, and we'll do the best we can. So, Christian, what's going on with community service?
I don't know anymore. Yeah, we were kind of disappointed, frankly, with the Maryland Avenue Back to School barbecue scheduled for September 2nd. Then the principal was in a meeting, and unfortunately, it's possible that it could be virtual this year. So I was supposed to be there last Monday for the logistics with Joel, but we had to postpone that, and I'm waiting for her to respond. And I'm gonna call her again this afternoon because she will know better by end of today or by tomorrow to see if that will be virtual. That would change so many things. I don't know how we're gonna serve food virtually. I don't think we can. But anyway, just in case we're able to do it, if they said to do it and maybe social distance, we're gonna have only 2 more meetings. So I'm gonna need really people to jump on, next. I'm gonna actually email it to everybody to start signing up. I'm gonna need for the food pickup, the shopping, the deliveries, the setup at the Maryland barbecue at 3 p.m. About a few people, then managing the cook and the head cook as usual, hot dogs, then on the grill, the assisting on the grill as well. Then of course, serving on the table, the food line. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna get a better update. I'm hoping if it happens earlier before Friday, I'm gonna send an email for the sign up, please, because we have only 2 more meetings left before the event happens. So we don't know, it's up in the air, but it is what it is. That's the kind of life we're living in right now, unfortunately. But and also for the food drive in September, we're gonna give you more details once they finalize exactly what's gonna happen with Ken. Ken, do you have any more, President Ken, do you have any more feedback from the September food drive so far?
So crazy times, right? We're trying to plan stuff. It's difficult to plan. This is the world we live in today. The district has notified us that they're not supporting food drives. A lot of the food pantries don't want food. There's COVID challenges around that. We're trying to coordinate something with the other clubs in District 4 where we're actually able to pack bags of food up for families in need. And we're working on all the details of that. So we'll have some more information pretty soon. So right, what a great opportunity for us to practice resiliency this year and the ability to adapt on the fly, right? This is going to be great. So thank you, Christian, for all your help. Keep us posted. And certainly, if we have an opportunity to help out in Maryland Avenue, we want to continue to do that. So,
Ken, I have a question. I'm
what do you got,
wondering
Alan?
if we could arrange what I would call a virtual barbecue, doing just what you said, of putting together packages for the kids at the school.
Alan, I'm going to introduce you to Christian.
Yeah.
Alan, Christian, Alan.
Yeah,
Christian,
thank you.
Alan has a great idea about maybe a plan B. So maybe you guys can talk about that and see what that might look like.
Yes, and that's what I've gotten some suggestions, about ice cream social, which didn't go very well the last time, because it was melting so fast and we're trying to push and push and push. So that might be a good idea, to create some packages we can just drop off or whatever. But please, I'm gonna put my email address, in the system. If you can shoot me your ideas, we wanna help this case as much as we can. If you can create packages to drop off in boxes, then we're gonna still need volunteers to put it together. So, but I'm gonna get you guys posted, by next meeting. But please be prepared to help, if I call on you, please. And I thank all of you because you always show up, always, all the time. Anyway, thank you.
Great, thank you, Christian. So I want to, acknowledge, Sheila had a great question in the chat section there. As far as in-person meetings, can you bring your own lunch? I think so. That was last we heard, but I probably need to double check if there are any county restrictions around that. If we're eating and not having our masks on, I don't know the answer, but that's a great question, Sheila. That's really something that we were kind of counting on, is at least those first few meetings before we had a caterer lined up, that people would be able to bring their lunch. So good question. We'll try and figure it out. So next week, Richard Finn, our local historian, right, going to talk to us about ancient Livermore schools. Wow, very, very curious about that. So at this time, Splen, would you be willing to introduce our speaker today?
Of course, Ken. And in search of ancient schools, of course, does not refer to some of the schools that the locals like Chris Ising may have gone to. Okay, so it's not a reflection on your ages. But no, I am really happy to introduce Vince. Vince, I think Vince, you're in your 16th year as in the booth for Oakland A's games. And I think when I say in the booth, I think Vince is going to give you a little insight what that has meant to him for the last couple of seasons during COVID. And he announces games with his partner Ken Korak, and those of you who listen in, they're a wonderful tandem and really bring an exciting. When you're traveling, it's really exciting to listen to them. Before the A's, Vince was in the booth with the Texas Rangers for I think like six years, and before that with the Houston Astros for I think around 7 years. Vince was born in Brooklyn, but he was raised in Florida, in Orlando, Florida, and then went to college and decided he wanted to become an announcer, and moved up the ranks to even where he was given a great award. He was the National Association Minor League Announcer of the Year way back when. And for like I said, he's been with the A's now for a really long time, and he has a great connection. He lives with his wife Veronica in Arizona. However, he spends the last few seasons here in Livermore. So, and I know he really likes Livermore, and I'm told that he's mentioned Livermore a few times. So Vince Cotroneo, without further ado, please tell us about the A's.
All right, thank you,
and
Spud.
you.
Can you guys see me and hear me okay? I'm literally sitting at an empty Coliseum getting ready for a game tonight with the White Sox, which is different than actually being on the south side of Chicago getting ready to do a game against the White Sox. But that is the world we're all dealing with. So I do appreciate the opportunity to talk about the A's. Certainly on the eve of the A's and the Giants this weekend, there'll be a lot of fun out here. I mean, I can kind of give you a little flip here if I can flip the camera, if I'm smart enough to do this. You see, here's Coliseum, just kind of sitting there waiting for everybody to show up, expecting about 40,000 on Friday night. And this is kind of how we're doing it now. So I'm literally sitting in our radio booth, and that's how I'll do the game. I'll watch these various screens up above on the left, called the All 9, which is the high home screen. And then you've got an opportunity to see who's loosened in the bullpen, and then where the bars are, that'll be the actual program of what's happening and how we'll call pitches. It's not ideal, of course, but it's what we're dealing with. We're not alone. There's only about 11 teams that are sending their the radio broadcast crews on the road. Very few, if any, television crews have actually traveled. The Cubs have traveled a couple of places to Cincinnati and Milwaukee. Really, that's been about it. So hopefully things will get a little closer to normal next year. We actually broadcast the playoffs from right here a year ago, myself and Ken. While the team was down at Dodger Stadium playing the Astros in the ALDS, we were doing the games from right where I'm sitting right now. So it does present a little bit of a challenge. It's not quite the same. You're missing the energy of the fans. You're just missing the energy of being in the ballpark. And most importantly for myself and for Ken and anybody that does what we do, and we're certainly blessed to be able to do this, John and Dave and Kruk and Kipe across the bay. What we miss most is interacting with the players and with the coaches and with the manager down on the field during batting practice, because in my industry, and I get a lot of tapes from wannabe guys that want my job, including my 26-year-old son. And I tell them all of you can do balls and strikes very well. The mechanics of the game, ground ball to third, fly ball to center, ball over the fence, home run. A lot of you handle that very professionally. But the difference is when it's a Tuesday night, your team has lost 6 in a row, and you're playing the Pirates and you're losing 7-1, and it's my responsibility to keep you entertained. Last night was a much different circumstance. Those of you who listened or watched last night, you're familiar with what happened with Chris Bassett. In the second inning, he was hit on the right side of his face. It was a horrific moment in the game. You may recall it happened to Brandon McCarthy back in 2012. I actually was calling that play when it happened in 2012 when Eric Ibar was at the plate. The difference in that circumstance, in the moment, while it was devastating, Brandon literally walked off the field. We didn't know until later that he went to the hospital, had emergency surgery, had swelling on the brain, and lucky to be here, and eventually came back to pitch. Last night was much different because Chris went down in a heap. You could see through the cameras from NBC Sports California that I could see the blood seeping through his fingers as he was holding the side of his face. And that's all we knew. You know, training staff rushed out, Bob Melvin rushed out, EMTs rushed out that are always on site at any sporting event. And you could see the towel that they put on the right side of his face just filling with blood. And he kind of stayed hunched over, and that's all we could see. There was one moment where the towel was away from his face and you could see the damage that it had caused. And that's all we knew. And we know if it caused damage to his eye, we didn't know anything. As it turns out, we find out today, thank goodness, even in that circumstance for Chris, it was in some ways the best case scenario. I mean, the eye is not compromised. Vision is not compromised. He does have some fractures around the outside of the eye. In fact, David Forst is meeting with the media right now to give a further update. He was released from the hospital last night. He's going to be out for a while. I don't think he's going to pitch again this year, which is from a selfish baseball point of view, it hurts the A's because he's their leading starter. Most importantly, from the standpoint of, you know, just human life, he's good and he's healthy. He has a wife and a young daughter, and you know he's like the rest of us. He gets up in the morning and he takes out the trash and all those kind of things. He happens to be able to throw a fastball 95 miles an hour. So we're very thankful that Chris is okay, and the A's will move forward. But last night was when the moment happened. It just not only did it suck the wind out of myself and Ken just seeing it unfold on television because we're here at the Coliseum, but just you could sense the same thing happening in Chicago at the stadium. And then you could just see it on the bench. You could see Bob Melvin's reaction standing over him on the field. You could see the reaction on the bench as the game was going on. And it was like, can we get to tomorrow as quickly as possible? Can we get to the end of the game so we all can kind of collectively come together as a group and, congregate, breathe, kind of pray for Chris and just give each other kind of a group hug, and certainly try to get in contact with Chris and send their support. There's the baseball family is a very unique one because you are together every day for 7-8 months if you're lucky. And I always joke about, I've been married for 30 years. I've seen my wife for 15 of them because I'm on the road with the club or I'm with the club half the time. So it's a special bond that they have, not only because they've reached the pinnacle of their profession, being major league players and pitchers, but also having an opportunity to build friendships and bonds. And Bob Melvin, as we know, has done a remarkable job since he came on board in 2011 to build that kind of camaraderie and build that culture inside the A's clubhouse, which has been so much fun to see. So Chris is better. Now he moves forward, but we won't see him pitch for a while. But the best news is what could have been really a disastrous and dramatic situation for him personally and professionally. These fractures and these stitches will heal, and hopefully he'll be back on a mound at some point, if not in 2021, in 2022. One of the things that I've been doing this year, and I was talking with Splend about this, is the A's this is the 7th decade of A's baseball here at the Coliseum since 1968. And there have been so many incredible moments that this club has had. And so on our pregame shows, which is, as many of you know, is on A's Cast, it's hosted by Chris Townsend. Every Tuesday and every Friday, I've kind of done my own subjective countdown of the top 50 greatest games in Oakland history. And again, the key word being subjective, because you can maneuver many of these games, and there are some that are left on the cutting room floor that not only deserve recognition, but could easily be placed on the list, depending on how you feel about a certain circumstance. So on Friday night, when the A's take on the Giants on our pregame show, we'll be at number 11. And number 11 is game 1 of the World Series of 1989, because it's the A's first World Series win since 1974. Dave Stewart's on the mound. It's against the Giants. We know what happened in the World Series with the earthquake in the middle and the week and a half away and the devastation of the community, but then baseball came back and helped the healing process. But that's number 11. So I've not given them to you in any particular order, but I'm going to tell you what are the remaining 10 after Friday night. And you can you can debate one or the other. What you think is number one or number two? I'm just going to read them in the order that I wrote them down, but that is not the order that they will be presented as the countdown continues all the way until the end of the season. So May 8th, 1968, Catfish Hunter, basically a month into the A's existence in Oakland, and he throws a perfect game, his first one in the American League, I think in 37 years. And not only was that unique for Catfish, he was one of the greatest players in the history of the franchise, but he was 3 for 4 in the game with 3 RBIs. And the A's won the game 4-0 against Minnesota. So it basically, back in the day when the pitchers were hitters too, and Catfish was an excellent hitter. That was a key game in the history of this franchise. Another one, of course, many of you will recall is the magic summer of 2022 when the A's won 20 games in a row. As you know, there was a movie made about number 20, Moneyball, and number 20 is on the top 10 as well. And not only was it the 20th consecutive win, which set an American League record at the time, which has since been broken by the Cleveland Indians, but the A's were, they were playing Kansas City and they were down 11-0. And you see in the movie, Billy's driving some pickup truck which he doesn't own, driving some part of town which he's never been around, and kind of stays with the ballpark, and then all of a sudden, makes his way back. And Scott Hatterberg has the moment of moments in his career with the home run off of Jason Grimsley. Great moment there. Another one on the top 10 is Game 7 of the 1972 World Series, because it marks certainly the first World Series championship in Oakland history. And that was 3-2. It was on the road. It was the Hares versus the Squares. It was Cincinnati versus the A's with the mustaches and the white shoes and the very corporate type Cincinnati ball club. They just had no part of the hair coming out from under the helmet. They always wore their socks outside of their pants. The A's were a much different club even way back then. And winning Game 7 behind Catfish, was pretty significant. Game 4 of the World Series of 1989, when the A's sweep the series against the Giants. It's Mike Moore on the mound, and they win 9-6. The first 2 games were Dave Stewart and Mike Moore getting ready for Game 3. Of course, then the Loma Prieta earthquake hits at 5:04 prior to Game 3. Devastation throughout the community. The A's got involved in trying to rebuild, specifically Dave Stewart, who's an Oakland kid, of course, and rebuilt that. They actually went down to the spring training site before they resumed play. And at the time, they made the right choice, saying baseball needs to come back. The community needed something to distract them from the challenges they were having moving forward with the earthquake, and sweeping that series and winning their first World Series since 1974. And naturally, that merits consideration on any top 10 list. Dallas Braden's perfect game on Mother's Day of 2010 was a tremendous moment against the Tampa Bay Rays. Dallas is from Stockton, and you could say maybe from the other side of the tracks, had a rough upbringing. His mother died from breast cancer when he was a teenager. His grandmother, Peggy, raised him in Stockton. Peggy would always be at a lot of his starts, leading up to that. I remember when Dallas made his major league debut for the A's on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. And myself and Ken and Dallas were walking from Camden Yards back to the hotel, because it's only like 3 or 4 blocks away. And just listening to this, this kid gleam about this opportunity, chance to pitch, and his grandmother was there, and what it meant to him. And this is a kid that was 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing. He still is. I mean, he's 6 foot. He's like 150 pounds, and he threw 88 miles an hour, but had that great changeup. And to do it on Mother's Day, the great thing, and we found out again earlier this week with the Arizona Diamondbacks with Tyler Gilbert, the beauty of this game still, over 100 years later, is that when you turn on the radio or turn on the television or get a chance to go out to the ballpark, something may happen that night that you've never seen. And I'm knock on wood, this is my 29th year in the big leagues, and I still see things that astonish me. The Matt Chapman catch earlier on this road trip in Texas, just another reminder of how special a talent he is. And seeing the perfect game by Dallas. But Tyler Gilbert, who's from Santa Cruz, pitching for the Arizona Diamondbacks, worked for his dad's electrical company during the offseason to make ends meet, because he mostly had been a minor league pitcher. His first big league start, and he throws a no-hitter. It just, it just doesn't get any better than that, which is why the sport is so much fun to be a part of. And the other thing too, I know you can look at basketball box scores and you can look at football box scores, but there's nothing like debating players of today versus players of yesteryear, comparing, like even last night on the air, Ken and I were comparing Nelson Cruz and Fred McGriff. Are they worthy for the Hall of Fame? I've always said, and I stole this line from my days in Dallas from one of my buddies who's a talk show host there, and it's the truth. Baseball is a talking sport. It's full of debate. It's full of conversation. My guy's better than your guy. My team's better than your team, or I really like X, Y, and Z. And the other person says, well, I like A, B, and C. And it's just a great conversation. It allows you to bond with your family and friends. It allows you to learn the history of the game and just have a lot of fun with it. One of the great moments for this club happened in 2012. It's also on the top 10 list. I was on the mic when it happened, when Josh Hamilton dropped the ball on the last day of 2012. The A's were not in first place at all that season. It was Bob Melvin's first full season as manager of the club. A lot of things were happening with the team on and off the field with injuries, changes, and trades. And somehow, some way, they, on the very last day, in the last few innings, got to first place and won the West. They'd already won the wild card. That happened earlier in the week. But to win the West, at a routine fly ball from Yoenis Cespedes to the center, and Josh Hamilton drops the ball, the A's tie the game and go on and win it. It was one of the greatest moments, and certainly, in my opinion, one of the greatest games in the history of the franchise. You got to go back to getting to the World Series for the first time. Game 5 of the ALCS for the A's in 1972 was against the Tigers, and it was, Vida in relief, 4 inning save. Vida always had some great years during the regular season, but he struggled at times during the postseason. And this was a shining moment for Vida, who's so important to the ball club's success, as one of the aces of that great rotation. Game 1 of the World Series in 1972, when we learned more about Gene Tennis than we thought was possible. Gene Tennis hit 5 home runs during the regular season for the A's that year, and hits 2 in that game against the Cincinnati Reds. And the A's, in Cincinnati at Riverfront, again, hairs versus squares, they win game 1 of that series and go on to win it 7. And Gene Tennis, with his, magical moment or moments, again, it's something that's unexpected. And that's what happened in that contest. Game 5 of the 74 World Series, the A's have won back-to-back World Series. It had not happened since the 50s when they do that against the Dodgers. I mean, how could you not include that on a top 10 list? And then also Game 5 of the 1973 ALCS to get back to the World Series after winning it in 1972. And it was a Catfish Hunter complete game. Catfish's fingerprints are all over this franchise during that great run of 72, 73, and 74. But as you could hear, there are other games from 2012, 2010, 1968, 2002. And again, it's a subjective list, but it's my top 10 list of A's greatest games. And you can add a no-hitter from Dave Stewart. You can add A's win the West in 2000 for the first time going to the playoffs since 1992. There's a lot of different directions you can go as far as the top 10 is concerned. But one other thing I wanted to show you guys before we take a few questions is people often ask, how do we do these games? And the important thing is you do the game that makes it most comfortable for you. And I'm kind of like I'm like a 3-year-old in some regards because I use a lot of different colors, and I'm like a 3rd grader. So this is my scoreboard just from last night. See if I can get this on there. See if I can set this up. Got to go in the wrong way. Give me 1 second here. So here's last night's scorebook. It's kind of how I keep score. You can see different colors and runs in red. And I use ink. I don't use pencil. I keep track of balls and strikes with dots and dashes on there. That's part of what I do. This is my daily book that I use. If I want to quickly reference something on Matt Olson, I just go to this. This shows his day-to-day that I keep track of every day. Blue is home, red is road, home runs, RBIs, walks, strikeouts, who they're facing, who they hit home runs against. It's just everybody's different. John Miller will do the game completely different than I will. And then one other thing too, on a daily basis, I keep track of each starting pitcher in the American League. And this year, since the A's are facing the National League West team. So I keep a daily kind of a rundown. Everybody has their own color. Starter, and with the game, the score, the starter, their line, who they faced, and just some notes about the game. It's just a chance to kind of reference back. And people say, man, it sounds like it's all in your head. It's not. It's in front of me. So those are some of the secrets that I'm revealing to you. And I will have to later kill all of you for getting a chance to see all this stuff. But look, when I was 14 years old, I wanted to be Thurman Munson. The Yankees were my favorite team. I was a catcher as a kid. My dad coached me for my little league years, and I played 1 year of high school baseball, and I knew pretty soon I was not going to be Thurman Munson. So I wanted to go down the next closest path. Baseball was the bond with me and my father. Continued until he passed in 2003. In fact, here in the Coliseum, about 3 booths down, I was working for the Texas Rangers at the time. It was the end of the 2003 season. And my dad, who had congestive heart failure and congestive kidney failure as well, was in his dying days, but he was still with us. It was the end of our season, and I went upstairs to the East Club, and I got 2 shots of scotch, and I laid them in front of me. And I don't do this every night, just so you know, just that particular night. So I had 2 shots of scotch in front of me, and I was working with my partner, Eric Nadell, who's Hall of Fame broadcaster for the Rangers and one of my dear friends of the game. And we got to the 7th, and I said, look, I need to say goodbye to my father right now on the air. I need to explain my bond with my dad. My dad was a World War II veteran. He was 19 years old in Germany. He didn't finish high school, and he raised 4 sons, and we were lucky to have him. But it was a chance. This is why the Coliseum, in many regards, is so special to me. So every opening day, even going back when my dad was with us and going back to the minor leagues, I would always toast opening day and toast my dad with a shot of whiskey. And now sometimes I get some participants in the booth that'll join me. Some of the guys that are even Ken occasionally, and some of the guys here at the Coliseum. But that means an awful lot to me, and the Coliseum means an awful lot to me for that very reason. So again, I went to the University of Central Florida. I spent 9 years broadcasting in the minor leagues. I lived in Orlando, of course, where I grew up, Lynchburg, Virginia, El Paso, Texas, Des Moines, Iowa, Tucson, Arizona. That's where I met my wife, Veronica, and then got the job with the Astros in 1991. And I was with the Rangers, and now 16th year with Oakland, and blessed to do it. Been around some fabulous people here, and got a chance to. I've known Ken, my partner, since we were both in the minor leagues in the Pacific Coast League. He was in Vegas, and I was in Tucson. He knew me when my wife was my girlfriend, and I knew him when his daughter was 2 years old, and she's 28 now. So we go back a long way. And while it was certainly unfortunate here, because I'm the one that stepped in following Bill King, which is not only an impossible task, that doesn't even exist. And when my first broadcast, spring training of 2006, the first words that I had on the air with the A's was I wrote out a little speech. I said, look, I'm not Bill. I knew Bill. I certainly related with Bill. We had conversations when I was with the Rangers and he was with the A's. There's only one Bill King, and I'm not that person. The thing that hurt the fans at the time, because Bill passed away unexpectedly. He wasn't ready to go, and the fans certainly weren't ready to say goodbye to Bill. And I understood that, and I appreciated that. And all I asked, I said, look, just let me do my job. If you're in the car getting a gallon of milk, or on your way someplace or in the backyard, if I can give you the score enough, I'll let you know what's happening. Let that be kind of the foundation. Let's see where that goes. And I've been really, really blessed, having a partner like Ken and having the support of the A's and the fans to be here 16 years. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell. So if you've got some questions about either what I do, or if you've got some questions about the A's in general, or the pennant race, I'd be more than happy to answer some of those right now.
All right, Vince, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing. So Rotarians, you know the drill, right? Down on the bottom of your Zoom screen there, the reactions tab, you can raise your hand, or if you want to type some questions into the chat, we can do that too. So Pat Coyle, I see you've got a question for Vince.
Yeah, I do. Vince, this is just fabulous. The question I have is for young people who are nuts about baseball. And I remember I wasn't one of them because of where I grew up on ranches out in the country and stuff, and it was just not available. But other people have box scores, they have all that stuff. But if a kid is interested in this kind of a field, in the announcing business or the rest of it, when you think about how media has changed now there's all kinds of web coverage and everything else. What kind of tips do you have for young people?
Well, it is different. You know, when I started in college, I got to work at the college radio station. I got on the air as a freshman, and we did, you know, football, basketball, baseball, volleyball. We did it all. Today's kid has podcasts. He can broadcast his own on the web. I mean, my son, who's 26, he works for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he literally wants my job. And he's very good at what he does. He spent 4 years broadcasting in the minor leagues. He broadcast at Arizona State for 4 years. But he started in high school on his own. He played 1 year high school baseball. And he played 4 years of golf. But during the baseball season, he goes, Dad, I need to borrow your extension cord. And I need a table and I need a chair. Okay, what's going on? Well, I'm going to broadcast our high school games when they're on the road, because he was the PA announcer at home. So he broadcast their games on the road over his computer through a company called Spreaker, which I knew nothing about at the time. This is, you know, several years ago. And so he went out on his own and he broadcast games. In fact, Cody Bellinger, you know, grew up right down the street from us. Cody Bellinger went to a rival high school. We knew Cody when he was skinny and hit only one home run in high school. So the point being is that kids have an opportunity to simply practice and get reps on their own now in so many different ways than even I could have done it, other than just sitting in front of the television, you know, in the basement and talking into a tape recorder. You can still do that, but you actually do get a chance to get out and get reps. And that's what it's all about. It's all about practice. I always joke with the professors in college. I said, look, I know you don't see me in class, no offense, but I'm not trying to be an engineer or a doctor. You know, all I need is all I want. I don't even need, all I want is a piece of paper. But for me to do my job, to reach the level I want to be at, when they point at me and I have to be able to talk in the microphone or be able to direct the game or use the camera to shoot the event. And that's what I focused on. Sports editor of the newspaper. I was sports director of the campus radio station, and I worked in the athletic department. And I never went to class. And I literally took golf to graduate. But the point being is that you have to practice. I mean, and there's opportunities out there for a lot of kids to simply do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Vince. Steve, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah. First off, I just want to say that I'm talking to you from your old stomping grounds. I'm in Kissimmee.
I like it.
Florida right now. And 6 of the games that you just mentioned, I watched on television out of the 10. So it was interesting. But what I want to talk about was, you know, Charlie Finley really pushed the concept of having a starter and a long reliever and a short reliever and a closer and created those roles. Now I hear that Tampa Bay has what they're calling an opener. And their starting pitcher doesn't pitch the first inning. And I was wondering if you had seen that and had comment about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in fact, the first opener is in the A's bullpen right now. It's Sergio Romo. He was an opener in 2018. And the point being, their analytics suggests that getting through that first inning with a different arm lends to more success. And that it was very prevalent for a lot of clubs in 18 and 19. It really is kind of backed off, although some teams still use it, but not nearly as much as they used to. And the A's are a perfect example of the anti-opener, because they lead all of baseball, American League and National League, in innings pitched by their starters. They typically have consistently gone at least 6 innings, which is something you had not seen a whole lot of recently. You know, I did a top 50 show yesterday from the 72 playoffs between Catfish and Mickey Lolich. And Mickey Lolich in 71 and 72 threw over 700 innings combined. He completed 52 games. It was a completely different world. And I'm not saying that the A's are going to get back to that, but the A's are a team that's a little bit different. But to your point about the opener, it was very prevalent, and they used it quite a bit. I know that the Tampa Bay Rays did. They don't even use it as much as we once saw. And again, there are always trends. There are always ways to try to figure out how to manipulate, like shifts, you know, how to manipulate the best way to control a game. And it hasn't gone away, but I think it has been greatly reduced.
Thanks, Steve. So Vince, one of our members is curious if you ever crossed paths with his cousin, Mel Antonin, the sports writer.
I miss Mel. Mel and I, we first met in the Olympics at Seoul in 1988. I was working for NBC Radio, was doing some reports for them. I was covering the baseball team. In fact, Scott Service was on that team. He became an Astros high pick. Scott is the manager now of the Seattle Mariners, and he's also the godfather to my oldest daughter. And our wives are best friends. So that relationship began back then. But yeah, I miss Mel. We had some great times together in Korea. We had great times over the years when I would see him at various ballparks. I'll see him in Minnesota, or see him in Baltimore. And it was very sad to see that he had passed away in the last year. I like Mel a lot. I miss him a lot too.
So we got another question. We know you might be biased, but who do you like in the series this weekend?
Well, there's no denying the kind of year that the Giants are having. Going 36 games over 500 just speaks volumes. I mean, they're you watch their games, and I'm watching from afar, either because our games are going on simultaneously, and I say, oh, they're down by 4 runs in the 7th inning. Oh, they won by 1. They scored 3 runs in the 1st inning, or they're down by 1 in the 9th and they scored 2, or they're down. They're to this point, at this stage, they're having a magical year. And so many people have tried to, even the narrative continues to be, well, the Dodgers are going to catch them. Well, I mean, they've held off the Dodgers all year, and they still have a 4-game lead on the Dodgers, and they've done pretty well other than the early series in the season when the Dodgers swept 3. So certainly I'm pulling for the A's. It's going to be a challenge. It'll be a lot of fun. The energy is second to none out here. And I've known Gabe for over 20 years. I mean, Gabe was a Texas Ranger when I was with the Rangers as a broadcaster. He had 2 home runs at opening day in 2000. Bucky Dent was one of our coaches back then for Johnny Oates, and he always ran a summer baseball camp for kids. And my son Dominic at the time was 5.5. And Bucky said, there got to be 8. Well, he let Dominic go because he'd seen him around the ballpark and knew that he lived and breathed baseball even back then. And he won the MVP award in Bucky's camp. And part of winning the MVP award was getting your picture taken with Gabe Kaplan. So we still have that picture of, 6'2" Gabe and 2'0" Dominic, and we have it at the house. It was a great moment. I like Gabe a lot. I root for him. Maybe not so much this weekend.
All right. So what do you think about the current crop of young A's players?
Well, look, the corners lead the way. Matt and Matt are special. 2 Gold Gloves, 2 Platinum Gloves. To me, there's not a better third baseman in baseball right now than Matt Chapman. The things that he does defensively are second to none. Not just arm strength. I mean, there are guys that may have similar arm strength, not quite the same, but there isn't another third baseman that combines that with the agility that he shows, the foot speed that he has, the play he made in Texas. And Ken and I looked at each other, and we've seen every play he's made. Okay. And you could probably put 50 in a bucket, and you could pick out the top 3 and not be disappointed with any of them. You remember the Tarp play here at the Coliseum and some other plays along the way. That one is, even Matt said, is in the top 3. I think it's number 1. And the fact that he broke back blindly running down the left field line with his back to home plate, just kind of threw his glove out there and found it in the mitt. He's a great competitor. He's a great kid. And look, the A's need him to get hot offensively, and he's shown that here in the last week and a half, and they need that to continue. I will tell you this about Matt. Like I said, I've been around since '91, so I've been around Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell. I had Alex Rodriguez for 3 years. I had Pudge Rodriguez, I had Rafael Palmeiro, Juan Gonzalez, and all the great players here, Xavi and Barry, and moving on and on with what the A's have done recently. Matt's the only player that during an offseason, I'd go to my mailbox and there's a handwritten note from Matt Chapman from his Southern California address just saying thanks for having me on as doing shows with me, and thanks for the gifts that you guys gave us at the end of the year for doing those shows. We really appreciate it. We're glad to help you guys. And it's he's just a different kid. I root for him a lot.
Nice. So I know we're coming up on our scheduled finish time. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Vince, you got just another couple of minutes? We got a few more.
Yeah, knock it out. Let's do it.
Okay. So Kathy wants to know if you think it's harder to do radio than television.
It's more fun to do radio because you are the director. You are the eyes. Television is easy. I won't say easy, but it's easier because the play is right in front of you. I don't have to describe every twitch of a player or things that you see. And it allows you to go down whatever path you want to go down. And there are games, like I was mentioning before, the thing that separates you when you have to have diversionary tactics. And last night was an example. Last night was a little bit different just because of the pall that was over the club with the uncertainty around Chris. But the club is down 9-0. I mean, they were down 8-0 early, and you've got to find some things to talk about. So that's when the debate came up about, Nelson Cruz and Fred McGriff. Cruz had hit 2 home runs last night, drove in 5 for Tampa Bay, so it was front of mind, and it allowed us to have that kind of debate. Radio is much more fun because you get to, and much more, I don't want to say important, but I do not take it lightly that when somebody turns on the radio and they're driving down the highway or wherever they might be, that they are relying on me to bring them to the ballpark. And one thing that continues, like I mentioned at the top, that's frustrating, is that I truly believe I'm the conduit for you, for all the folks that are on the Zoom, to go. I'm the one that can go in the clubhouse. I'm the one that can go on the field and ask questions and talk to Bob Melvin and talk to Matt Chapman or Chris Bassett or Lou Trevino, especially about something that happened the previous night, because you are watching and listening to the games and you probably have questions. Hey, what about such and such and so? And I take that responsibility pretty seriously, that we try to get to those answers and present those, in a timely fashion. I'm so lucky to do what I do. And, the people that have been before me and the people that will come after me. I grew up in Orlando, so I didn't get a chance. I didn't go to bed listening to Vin Scully or Harry Carey or Bob Murphy or Jack Buck, or, I didn't have that under my pillow because I didn't have a team in Orlando, Florida. I mean, I'd watch the game of the week, things of that nature. And then I was fortunate to get into the business and I met all these people. And my wife, being from Tucson, my wife is Hispanic and she's the youngest of 5 daughters, and her dad, to disappear from the girls, would go out in the car and turn on the radio, listen to the Dodgers. And that was during, Fernando Mania, 80 and 81. And in 1998, my first year at Texas, her dad had just passed away in April of that year. And we had interleague play and the Dodgers were in town and Vin was there. And I'd known Vin since 1991 with the Astros, seeing him going back to the Vero Beach days, and had a relationship with Vin, and I wanted to introduce him to my wife. And I did, and my wife just had this flood of tears because the joy that Vin brought, he brought back her childhood to her. He brought back all those special memories that she had of her dad, escaping the house, sitting in the car to listen to the games on the radio. So I'm thankful that I had that opportunity. For some folks that get a chance to listen, and maybe some of those magic moments that I've been a part of for them means an awful lot.
Very nice. So
can I interject, Ken? I just want to thank you for that answer, Vince, because I can remember I always felt like when I'd listen to hockey games on the radio with my dad going somewhere, that you brought the game to life. That's what the announcers did. They made you feel like you were there. And
well, I appreciate that. It's important for us to hear that, and I'm very thankful that you feel that way.
So one last question. Are you doing any podcasts?
No, I'm not. I don't do my own. My son, who's a very talented kid, he wants to do a father and son podcast. We kind of kicked this around for a while. I'm the old guy, screaming at the clouds, and he's, the young technology whiz that has a, little better feel of what's happening in the modern world with music and technology and social media and all that kind of stuff. We may put something together this off season. We'll see, but at this point, I'm not doing one of my own. But I would just say stay tuned.
Okay, well, keep us posted if that develops. So Vince, on behalf of everybody here at the Rotary Club of Livermore, I want to thank you for sharing with us today, carving time out of your busy schedule. That was a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it very much.
All right. Okay, big hand for Vince. Thank you, Vince, for coming out today. Really appreciate that. So I want to say adios to all of my fellow Rotarians. I hope you guys have a good week, and be kind, be safe out there, and we'll do this again next week. See ya.
Bye, Ken. This was great.
See you, Kathy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm ending the meeting.
Thanks, Jeff.
You bet. And